So we're talking about Color Out of Space, and it was so bad. It was. Both of these were bad. We watched them yesterday. I borrowed them from the library, and I wouldn't have went and picked up my library items, but there was a book from. Well, it's about Glacier National Park and stuff.
I saw that. It looks nice. Glacier Park to Yellowstone or something like
So
that.
I had it on hold a long time ago, and it
Are you
finally
sure
came
it's
in.
about the park, or is it the stuff in between those two parks?
It's it has everything. It has the like the Grand Tetons and stuff like that.
Well, that's
And
even
it
south
has-
of Yellowstone,
Yeah.
so that isn't even between.
Yeah.
But so it
So
looks
it
as though it
has-
deals with the.
The area. The
The-
general area.
I think they call that the kind of like the Middle Rocky Mountains, or the maybe in the American context, the North Rocky Mountains. And then there's a little break after the Grand Tetons, and then you get down to stuff that's more spread out.
So I've been really wanting to. Well, I've been wanting to see that my whole life, that area, and the
That is a lot
only
of stuff
place
there.
more than that I want to see. I want to see a lot of the stuff in the Maritimes that I haven't seen. You know, I've seen a fair amount of Prince Edward Island, not much of the Prince's end of it.
The western
We just
part.
went in.
Yeah.
My dad took us there
You saw
one day.
Elephant Rock that was eroded down. Is that what it was called?
I don't know where Dad took us, but he took us to a bunch of places, and I didn't really care for the look.
You didn't like
That
the
end of
Elephant
it.
Rock, or you didn't? You
I
don't
don't
recall
remember.
it, so okay.
So
So
I-
there wasn't a great loss, I guess, for you when it
when the trunk broke
when
off.
the trunk broke off. You just
Yeah.
heard about it. Okay.
No, I heard about it.
Mm.
But anyway, no, I want to see a lot of like New Brunswick down.
I think New Brunswick's
Yeah.
quite scenic.
Yeah.
There's
Like
a lot of stuff. We've kind of gone around the western part of Nova Scotia. Well, part of it.
Like
We
there's
cut
the
off at
Fundy Trail
Cajun.
or something that's down there. I want to go along there.
But it's all pretty well scenic.
Yeah,
I
it's
suspect
pretty
New Brunswick looks a lot like Cat Power's video of Woodstock,
awesome. Yeah.
only it would be cooler.
But anyway, I want to see that more, and then I want to see. I don't think I'll get to hike it now, but I always wanted to hike the West Coast Trail. I didn't get to do that, and I wanted to hike the Valley of a Thousand Falls at Mount Robson. I didn't get to do that, and
Is that a real tough one? Yeah.
it's an overnighter, but no, it's not. And
Yeah, it'd be tough for us with our bags.
I
We'd have to lug in tents or sleeping bags or something. No?
anyway, and the place that I most wanted to visit in my life was the Sequoia and Redwood forests,
Well,
and go
once-
along California, along the coast. I wanted to do a driving loop, but that never happened. So
Well, once the
I mean-
Americans get over COVID, and once we get enough money, well, we should be able to do it. Now, that might be sometime in the next millennium, not so much when we get enough money, but when the Americans get over COVID. Get over it, Americans. You know, freedom is limited by other people's freedom. You know, like, it's that simple.
I no longer have any
Mm.
illusions that I'm going to see those places. So anyway, Color Out of Space was terrible. My DVD player often gives up on movies, and it tried to give up several times on this one. It was like, don't even bother. It's
player
not
with
worth
taste.
watching. So bad. Now this one, worse. And there were a lot of actors that, I mean, Emilio Estevez, he did fine in this. He wasn't on very much. And there were some other people in this. John Lovitz was awful, and Julie Delpy is cute. Has a pretty voice, didn't know. Harry Dean Stanton, Dennis Leary.
Oh, Dennis
Anyway,
Leary saved
But
me,
they were
spared
so
me.
bad
Yeah,
in this.
well.
Like Emilio Estevez, fortunately he wasn't in it very much, so I can't say he was bad, because he seemed like he handled his part
He's a
okay,
token
because he
actor.
wasn't there very much. But I blame this Matt Palmieri. He both wrote and directed this and produced in part this. So I think it's his fault.
Well,
so
I
bad.
mean, he's got a lot of responsibility for it.
Like, honestly,
As a
I couldn't
producer,
even
he's
tell what was
responsible
happening.
for who's getting hired for it, right?
And I mean, with not telling what was happening, I did fall asleep for a while, granted, but I feel very thankful that I fell asleep because it was that bad. And I don't think it would have helped for me to be awake to know what happened in the movie, honestly, that bad. So, these two movies, like, the way I look at things now during COVID is when I go out, I think, is it worth dying for? And there's some things, you know, sometimes I have to go out to, say, pick up James's prescriptions or go get some food or something like that. Or, you know, and fill his, we do that when we fill his car up with fuel because he can't walk like he used to be able to, so he needs the car.
I used to walk pretty well everywhere on this side of the river. So. Well, I used to run. Really.
But I don't want to do that. But I do it. But anyway, for me, hiking is worth dying for because it really lifts my spirits when, like, I haven't hiked this morning. Not feeling great. So I need quite a lot of activity. I need a lot of exercise, and it's not as easy for me to get it anymore as it used to be. But anyway.
Actually, we've been getting more than we would have.
Yeah.
Before this last little while, we decided to do trails inside the city.
Mm-hmm.
It's been close to once a day.
I drank this whole
hour
blender
and a
full.
half to hour, usually 2 hours.
Mm-hmm. So you're gonna.
I thought I had something, but I don't.
You were gonna talk about COVID. You were gonna talk about how Calgary's gotten it under control.
Oh, yeah.
Because what had happened is the numbers. If you were paying attention to the numbers at all, the COVID new cases just went. And there's a couple different reasons for this. One is the Alaska loophole, which needs to close. Frankly, it just needs to close. There needs to be no Alaska loophole. It's ridiculous. It's obvious that people from the United States are just using this loophole to come up and tour the national parks and resort areas of Canada.
Under false pretenses.
Yeah. Because, and honestly, with dual citizenship too, I think what the Canadian government has to do is say, okay, you have dual citizenship, and I understand that. Right now, as of this moment, you have 2 weeks to get to Canada. We're closing the gates. If you want to be, even if you're a dual citizen, if you want to be in Canada until COVID clears up, you come now. Mm-hmm. If you don't come now, you stay where you are because you're not getting in here. Nobody's getting in. They need to close the gates to tourism completely, and that goes for dual citizens also. Close it. Close the gates. It's ridiculous. You need to get this under control.
So yeah, we have a very reliable source. This person would never tell a lie. I've never caught her in a lie. Never.
She would lie. People would lie if they had to.
Well, anyway, wouldn't be lying about this.
No.
Northern Vancouver Island ran into Americans who were claiming to be on the way to Alaska.
And
a little bit of a detour there.
She was talking to the locals that's what they had a problem with. They didn't have a problem with her being there. Mm-hmm. They had a problem with the Americans because there were so many Americans.
In Northern Vancouver Island.
Yeah. Which that's a bit of a detour because you can't get to Alaska from there. So it's like, no, they're not going to Alaska if they're there.
Put them in jail.
Yeah.
What was it? Put them in jail.
What?
After their term is up, deport them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly.
And confiscate
Their
impound
Winnebagos or whatever they
forever.
have. Not forever.
Well,
Okay,
me,
so
I say
here's what-
forever. Pauline's being kind to them. I
But-
say impound their vehicle and sell it for the court costs. Why should we be paying court costs and deportation
Yeah,
costs
for the- you're
these
right, yeah.
stupid,
Anyway.
stupid Americans?
But what
Are you all stupid? Well, some of you guys in
No.
New York kind of shut things down.
a lot of
But you
the
guys
people
in,
are too.
in South America, you are stupid. Texas, Southern California, Florida.
That's not South America.
No,
but anyway,
that
Southern
is
United
a
States is what he meant.
no. I meant that intentionally. That's a little joke by Chuck Berry. He's in. He's doing a concert. He said, "I come from South America."
Anyway.
Pleased to meet you.
So, no, what I was saying was, my idea was to say to the Americans that are claiming to be heading up to Alaska this summer, when really they're just touring all over Canada.
Spreading their
Because the numbers
poverty around.
the numbers for COVID are so high in the United
guys are
States
so
that they decided to come spread it up here.
Yeah.
You know, which was ridiculous anyway, because the Alaska loophole, like when you're coming into Canada, they say, oh, yeah, no problem coming into Canada when you're a Canadian citizen. You just make sure you self-isolate for 2 weeks or whatever it was. And
2
it's
minutes.
like, okay, which
Is what they
isn't
do.
good enough anyway. You
Yeah.
know, they found that COVID lives longer than that. So, anyway. And, but with the Alaska loophole, they're letting the Americans through. They're not having to self-isolate for 2 weeks.
I don't think so. I don't know.
What is going on with that? So the Canadians coming in have to self-isolate for 2 weeks. And that's just, I mean, that's on your own. Oh yeah, I promise I'll do it. And it's like,
Yeah.
who knows if they do.
Well,
But,
you know they don't on average.
But with the Americans, they're not even asked to. They're just, yeah, come right in. And there they go, off to wherever they want to go. Which doesn't seem to be Alaska. So, what the government needs to do is just say,
Who'd want to go to
look,
Alaska?
you have 1 week to
Anytime.
get to Alaska. Here's your route. You have to stay on that route. And then whatever the gas pumps want to charge along that route, I think is fair.
Yeah.
So if they want to charge 3-4 times what everywhere else is, I think that's fair.
Well, they're American
So-
oil companies anyway.
Yeah.
So all goes
So-
back to the United States.
Anyway, but they have to stay on that route. So
Yeah, you
if
get
you
off of
don't
it, you're in
see if you see an American license plate anywhere else but on that route, in jail. And if you're on that route, if it's longer than the week that you have to get in
You
jail
get deported.
and deported, gone.
Yeah, like
'Cause-
have an exit sort of thing. You got to report to Canadian officials before you get into Alaska. Taking too long. Yeah, I guess deported. I don't know. You could have a sob story about breaking down or whatever, but just deport them. Yeah. Put up a wall.
But yeah, the Alaska loophole has to close. I mean, that's just we knew this a couple
Right from
days
the
after
start.
it opened.
When we-
Like what?
Yeah,
It wasn't working out.
When we heard it the first time,
Yeah.
we knew Americans would be abusing it. They
Well,
think they own the
already
whole
were.
world.
As soon as we heard about it, we were like, "What in the world?" Because it wasn't even, as far as we knew, the borders were closed. But then we hear it like there was this Alaska loophole. They were allowed to get through, and they were abusing it. They were going to Banff or whatever and hanging out there and
I wonder
joking
if
about
they're
how
the-
easy it was to get into Banff and stuff like that. And it's like,
I wonder if the
that's
oxymorons who spread this thing, the new outbreak in Saskatchewan. I don't know if it's happening in Manitoba. Who knows? They might be going to their little summer villas in Prince Edward Island, saying, "Hey, we're going to Alaska. Just give us some time here,
Yeah.
because we're fat and
Anyway,
fat and
so
sassy, and it's hard for us to move."
James wanted to applaud Calgary because
Okay, well, let's just start this off. Okay?
okay.
I want to address Calgary. Calgary. I kind of cut you some slack because lots of people were doing it when this thing first started busting out bad in April, not first, starting in March, it got really bad in April. Calgary was sitting at 50% of all the infections in the province. You're only allowed a quarter.
Yeah.
You hear me?
Based on population.
You're only allowed a quarter. Maybe a little bit more. 4.3 million people, you're 1.3. Okay, we'll give you a little benefit of the doubt. 1/3, not 1/2. No, I heard, and I was worried because I'm a Calgarian. I was a Calgarian from 64 to 67. And boy, was that a
His
skunky
family
town.
moved around.
It's a nice place to come from, not a nice place to go back to, necessarily. So when the city council in Calgary had a vote yesterday or last night, probably last night, about whether to mandate masks in public places, I guess if that's confined areas, I thought, oh man, that's going to get slammed dunk. Calgary City Council, which represents the people of Calgary, voted 12-3. I gather it's not just city facilities, it's all facilities. So I'm assuming that. I like to assume the best. And you know what? I am going to give some hearty applause. Fact is, the camera's not set for it. Pauline said don't do it, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to give you a standing ovation, okay, Calgary? Because you elected some guys and gals who, I hope there's some gals on the city council, who know what they're doing, okay? And I hope that it's all public facilities. If it's just the city facilities, you know, I take back my standing ovation. It's still an ovation. So that's what you got to be doing. So Calgarians have changed, and changed a lot, actually, since I was a kid. They were all pretty well useless when I was there from 64 to 67. They thought they were Americans. And with this added little twist that they were, you know, they were supporting things like Socred. And so far as I can see, the only, aside from the little kingdom that Huey Long carved out for himself in Louisiana back in the 30s, the only fascist regime to exist in North America, north of the Rio Grande, and I think that would include Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not together enough, really, to be a fascist. He doesn't have a real ideological propaganda. It's just whatever, you know, crosses his mind. I should say W.A.C. Bennett too in BC. He was fascist. He was Socred too. He just wasn't quite. He came a little bit later, and I think he realized that he couldn't quite do what was set out in the social credit program. And actually, with Ernest Manning, the father of Preston Manning, Ernest Manning started to realize, I think it was with a little bit of encouragement from the Americans, that he better tone it, the Socred creed down about Jews being a threat to the world, the threat to the world, and stuff like that. I don't think he really believed that. It's just, I think the Americans saw there was big oil to be had here after World War II. And I think Manning actually started to turn about 43, I'm not sure. When did he come to power? 43. And it was sometime in that time period. I think the Americans, they were relatively left-wing, particularly by comparison with the Democrats. Now, the Democrats in power then. I think they just told the Socreds, you know, like, we're kind of fighting to a certain extent to save some Jews and stuff like that. And we're definitely fighting fascists and Nazis and stuff like that. You don't want us fighting you. And I think Ernest Manning was a pretty stupid individual. His beliefs is absolutely crazy. He believed in Christianity and in Socred kind of stuff. And wow, that's a pretty gullible person as far as I can see. Like fundamentalist kind of Christianity. And you know, I think he still was smart enough to realize he didn't want the Americans knocking on his doorstep. They were already inside there, but knocking on his own personal doorstep. But yeah, so Calgary, maybe you're turning it around. But here's what I got to say to the people who aren't self-isolating and stuff. You know, it's been constantly. You know, like here, this is Jason Kennedy. Yesterday, Kenny. Yeah. Forgetting his name. Now here's the deal. He said, to all you people out there, he's got this wimpy voice. To all you people out there who are abusing the system or something like that, knock it off. And wow, you and what army? You stupid moron.
Yeah, the thing is,
that just encourages. Knock it off. You sound like some librarian.
I mean, that's not even saying what exactly is being abused by the system or what. You know, it's really. Yeah, that's just for
sound like some hopeless librarian has his pants pulled up under his armpits. Yeah, knock it off. Yeah. Or what? I don't know. Tune in next week.
Yeah, any law is only as good as its enforcement. So, I mean, the CBC, the way that the government was, and we were listening to the CBC, and it's an arm of the government. The voice of the government. So the way the government was reacting to COVID at the beginning, and this is not just Canadian government, this is governments around the world. It's, I mean, to me, it's obvious that the intention was to cull the herd. There's, especially when people start commenting on climate crisis and stuff like that, and we know that human population is the #1 cause for climate crisis. So anybody who's talking about that wants the population to shrink. How? How's the population going to shrink? Well, something like COVID. Boy, that does the trick, doesn't it?
You don't have to worry about passing it on popular
and then
law.
I mean, it's a type of Holocaust that's imported, but it's not so obvious. It's something that you can't say, well, it's a racially directed kind of Holocaust, you know, like the Holocaust against the Jews that the Nazi Germany perpetrated against the Jews. It's not like that way, because it's
directed against old people.
Yeah, it's
There's
directed
against ageist, and also
but
sick
it
people,
seems to be
healthists.
Men have more chances of getting knocked out by COVID, which is interesting, because I had written about, if you look back in my blog post, what I'm actually encouraging people to do is research to move forward, go back. Mm-hmm. So start looking at older books, not the newly recent published books or whatever. That's not going to help you. Look back. Look back into history. Look back. So I had written, so go back into my old post, because I was talking about a lot of things that would lead up to this, because I could see this coming from a long time back. And the way things are going, it's going to be very, very bad.
This might actually be
this
the new
is just
normal.
The beginning.
I was skeptical when they were saying that.
No, but
it looks as though there's going to be wave after wave of different things coming from China.
Well, and it could be from anywhere. You don't know at this point, but this one looks pretty certain. But still, you don't know, right? It's we're still learning about that, but it's not looking good for China right now.
Well, people are turning on it.
Yeah.
I don't know if too many. I'm going to call them alt-left people are. Yeah, you know, they're the ones that were making the call.
Yeah.
Don't criticize China. No conspiracy theories. That's racist. Don't shut the door on them. That's racism.
Yeah.
You're buying their line. It's a party line. Of course, all lefties have been doing that since 1917.
Yeah, but
that's
the
even before the
CBC,
Spanish flu.
The government voice has changed since the beginning. If you've been following the CBC, and you should have been taking notes, you should have been taking names, because
they represent
it
you.
was
Hopefully they
an eye-opener. but their tune has changed now that they realize. Before they were saying, we're trying to gain herd immunity. And
Yeah,
when
you
that
hear
became
again and
obvious,
again.
then, I mean, whenever people refer to a population of people as a herd, you gotta worry.
Wow, yeah, that's that.
And but what they were doing was herd culling, not herd immunity, and it became obvious enough to enough people that the government's changed their tune. But I mean, honestly, you think it's bad under the Liberals. With all of this
Under the Conservatives.
racist talk and all of this other, it's going to push people. They're not going to speak up in public, but like James says, they're going to speak up in the ballot box. Secret ballot. If this stuff keeps on going like it's been going, we're going to see a very ultra-conservative government take over. Do you want that?
Some
Look at
people
what's
do.
happening in
Some
the
alt-lefties do.
southern United States. Do you want that?
Communists do,
Seriously.
you know? The communist thing has always been, we're going to, anarchists too, we're going to push the powers that be, they're going to strike back the way they do in demonstrations. They'll have black people in front of it, kneeling in front of the National Guard or the Army or the,
So you're
not so
saying
much the Army.
their
but,
intention is to use African Americans as cannon fodder.
Exactly right.
against,
So then all of a sudden there'll be anarchists at the back throwing bottles.
yeah.
Hey, the soldiers can't use soldiers, but despite
Police,
what,
whatever,
well,
yeah.
they'll use National Guard,
Yeah.
or they'll use ROTC possibly. They used to back in the training, back in the 60s. Maybe they were stopped from doing that. But police, they don't know where that's coming from, and they don't know if it's going to stop there. So it's anarchists using them for their own, as cannon fodder. You got those people kneeling down there, and those people is used positively. They're and throwing bottles,
The ones in the
bricks, or
front
whatever.
kneeling
So,
are peaceful demonstrators, and they certainly don't deserve to be.
beaten up there now on the
No.
front lines.
Yeah.
So the anarchists are behaving like typical generals. Hey, you're behaving like an army. You're not supposed to believe in that. In organizations and armies and stuff like that. But there you are. They're using unarmed people as an army. When you're an army, you're armed. You stupid Antifa pukes.